Easter was right around the corner. A bunch of families got together like we always had every year to discuss who would be hosting this year's Easter egg hunt and plan accordingly. Almost everyone had hosted it before, and it was only fair that those who hadn't should. That left us with Gacy, the creep. Creep might have been a little sour to call him, because he really didn't mean any harm to anyone. He was just different, in a very odd but unsuspicious kind of way. He didn't have a lick for understanding social cues, nor did he have any skills with the ladies, often doing more harm than good with his unpleasant and distasteful sexual remarks. He also didn't seem completely there in the head, like something was missing, holding him back. I think we kept him involved because it made it easier to keep an eye on him, and it promoted community. If he was really at risk, he'd be a lot less likely to do something criminal if he felt included. At least, that was the logic at the time. He'd been open arms with hosting the kids' Easter egg hunt, said he'd been waiting for years, but didn't want to pry, just patiently waited for his moment. Well, batter up. It was Gacy's time to shine, and we were already placing our bets. Home run or strike, you're out. Would it be bad to say I bet money on the latter? Flip or not, I don't think any of us were prepared. I'd been coming back from the grocery store when I saw Gacy decorating a couple days ahead of the big day. I parked my cruiser and made a gesture at him to get his attention. We didn't talk long, but it was pretty obvious he was excited. He'd noted he had a huge surprise that he thought the kids were going to love, but that it was a secret. We were all crossing our fingers when the big day came. I'd shown up pretty early, as I usually did every year. Decorations had been set inside and outside Gacy's house. Tables were set and seating was arranged. I was quite impressed. So far, so good. Who would have thought? People started piling in. Everyone was shocked at the amount of effort he put into preparing the event, just as I walked on over to Gacy in the kitchen to congratulate him and his hard work. He'd reminded me of the big surprise. I'd forgotten. He let me in on a little more of his secret that he didn't tell me last time. The big surprise. Though he didn't tell me exactly what it was, he told me it was something in the eggs for the Easter egg hunt. No peeking, he concluded. I can't lie and say it didn't make me slightly nervous. Everything was going good so far, but I guess I still lacked some faith in the guy. Gacy had prepared an Easter egg painting contest, which the kids loved, though their eggs always came out absolutely horrible. None of it really mattered, as long as they were having a good time. What they were really waiting for was the big Easter egg hunt. One of them brought it up, and I went to find Gacy, and of course he was more than happy to get all the kids ready for it. I couldn't stop thinking about what the surprise was. Did he throw $100 on one of the eggs? Suddenly, Gacy gave the green light. The back door was open, and the kids packed into the backyard, eager to fill their baskets. I'd started talking to another adult while the kids were hunting. That's when I heard someone scream. Everyone's attention was directed to one of the kids who was screaming. "It's all over my fingers! Look at it! What is it?" Then other kids started screaming. There was something in the eggs. I went and picked up an egg and opened it. Red goo poured out, and something with little legs and big eyes was staring up at me. They were unborn baby birds. They were in all the Easter eggs. I looked up to find Gacy. He was standing on the back porch, smiling, nearly jumping up and down. Surprise! Have you ever seen a guy out of costume? Ever wonder what's under there? Maybe it's someone you know, or maybe it's someone you'd never want to know, or maybe it's something worse. The line was long. It seemed like all the kids in the city all got together and told their parents to bring them here to see the Easter Bunny. I'm not one for waiting, especially when it involves keeping a 5-year-old in check the entire time. Kids have really low attention spans. They get fixated on one thing, then 10 seconds later, they're pulling at your shirt for attention or to buy them something. The line was conveniently serpentining a bunch of last-minute checkout teasers. Easter candy, toys, the latest People magazine, oohing and awing over Jennifer Aniston's secret to looking young. I gotta say, expert setup. Almost had me. The line got shorter and shorter until we finally had a clear view of the Easter Bunny. My son started jumping up and down, tugging at the bottom of my shirt and screaming, "It's him! It's him!" from the top of his lungs. There was a smell in the air that made me want to vomit. Others were smelling it too. Something must have expired. That or someone ripped one and didn't want to fess up. I put my shirt over my face to drown out the smell, but It never went away. Someone called over one of the employees to source out the odor. The line continued to move ever so slowly, and that smell never went away. One of the kids had just gotten done sitting on the Easter Bunny's lap and was walking back with his parents when I heard one of them say, "It's the guy in the costume. He smells absolutely awful, like someone died in there." I started paying close attention to the guy in the costume as we got closer. That's when I began to notice he wasn't moving. We'd been getting closer and closer. Kids one by one sat on his lap, took pictures, then went on their day. He never moved. I found it extremely strange. Before we could get to our turn, an employee went over to the guy in costume and started talking to him. The Easter Bunny didn't answer. The employee looked frustrated. That's when they took off the guy's mask. He was as purple as a grape. A nasty goo was extruding from his eyes. His tongue was black and slopped over his bottom lip in a weird fashion that reminded me of someone pretending to be dead. But he wasn't pretending. He was dead. That smell was the smell of a decaying corpse. Kids started to scream and parents were gasping, grabbing their kids and moving as far away from the scene as quickly as possible. I just stood there. I'd been in this line for so long. My kid is going to get a picture with the Easter Bunny, no matter what. Eyes are windows into the soul. He stared at himself in the mirror, into those bloodshot eyes. There was no soul there, only a void. Sweat beaded down his forehead. The shakes would come next. He needed his fix, and he didn't care how he'd get it. Oh yes, he was gonna get it. Soon. Soon he'd feel right again. Normal. He knew of the place, the guy, but it would come at a price, written in blood. He'd gotten the call from Mr. Vitale earlier that morning. It was time for a visit from the Easter Bunny. Big Bun was Mr. Vitale's go-to debt collector. A simple man, you'd pay him in dope and he'd be on his way. A rogue man, lone wolf. He was a fluffier guy. You'd not be able to tell he was on dope had you looked at him. In the last 10 years, Big Bun had successfully collected over $2 million from Mr. Vitale's delinquents. Borrowing from Mr. Vitale was like a contract, like when you secure a loan from a bank to finance a house, where you put your house up as collateral in case you miss too many payments. Except with this contract, you were signing your life on the dotted line. Everyone knew the risk. After all, what more motivation does one need above their own soul? It just so happened to be Easter when Big Bun got the call. A guy named Sweetie had been dodging repayment for almost a month now. Word had gotten to the boss that he'd been laying low at a motel off a rest stop. Mr. Vitale had eyes everywhere, but they were just eyes. Only Big Bun could collect the debt. The deal was simple: get the cash, get your dough. Most important of all, bring back Sweetie's tongue. Big Bun thought it'd be hilarious to show up to the motel in an Easter Bunny outfit. He made a pass through the Party City just for the occasion. The suit barely fit his bulky build, but it did the job. He decided to throw it on in the parking lot before he'd head to the motel. Bad idea. He was already sweating bullets without his fix. Now he'd be swimming in it. Too late. He was already on the interstate, and time was of the essence. Mr. Vitale wouldn't wait any longer than he needed to. It started to rain on the way there. The 1993 Mazda Miata cut through the rain at an alarming pace. Big Bun was frantic. He needed his juice. Damned be the rain if it tried to slow him down. He could barely see through the eye holes of the mask. Talk about tunnel vision. If it wasn't for the fact he was already on the wagon, he might ignore it. The little things just get to you. He'd have to try. The storm picked up more when he pulled into the motel parking lot. Water had broken through the seal in his driver's side window and was drenching the panel. Should have sold this can a while ago, he thought. Another day. It's showtime. Room 103B. He'd brought the minimal, but the minimal was always more than enough. No gun. He'd always done this the quiet way. It was a lot messier, but he never cared to leave a mess. All he needed was his hatchet. He'd parked a few spots down from Sweetie's supposed hideaway. Upon hopping out the cab, Big Bun could hear something loud coming from room 103B. Nobody told me there'd be visitors, he thought. The knock was light, friendly. Nobody answers to a pound. Nobody with some common sense, that is. A woman answered the door. She followed with a laugh. Big Bun said nothing. If only you could have seen his face. He was grinning. "Sweetie, come look at this guy. Must be some motel thing for Easter." Big Bun nodded his head. He was holding the hatchet behind his back. Sweetie could be heard off in the back of the room. "Tell the guy to scram. We're not celebrating." That voice, that stupid voice, Big Bun thought. Then another thought came to mind. Bring back Sweetie's tongue.